For years, Kelly Clarkson stayed silent. But now she's breaking her silence. And the truth about Brandon Blackstock is shocking. The singer is revealing a side of her ex-husband that the public never saw. After the headlines, the courtroom battles, and endless speculation, Clarkson finally shares what really went on behind closed doors. Fans won't believe what she's saying, until now. Kelly Clarkson first met Brandon Blackstock, a well-connected talent manager, in 2006 during rehearsals for the Academy of Country Music Awards. At the time, the moment barely registered in Kelly's life. It was quick, professional, and uneventful. Two people moving in different directions within the same industry. Kelly was rising rapidly as a powerhouse vocalist, while Brandon was managing artists and working alongside his father, Narvel Blackstock. There was no spark, no follow-up, and certainly no sign that their lives would eventually become intertwined. Yet in hindsight, that fleeting encounter marked the quiet beginning of a much larger story. Years passed before their paths crossed again, and when they finally did, the timing was completely different. Kelly was older, more grounded, and more self-aware. Brandon was coming out of a previous marriage and settling into a new chapter of his own life. This second meeting carried a different energy, one that Kelly later described as unexpectedly electric. What had once been a neutral introduction evolved into a real connection. They became friends first, building trust through shared humor, mutual respect, and the unique pressures of the entertainment world. Slowly, that friendship shifted into something deeper. By the end of 2012, that connection had become undeniable. Brandon proposed in December of that year, and Kelly, who had always been candid about her difficulty finding genuine romantic compatibility, said yes with full certainty. Less than a year later, in October 2013, the two were married in a private ceremony that emphasized intimacy over spectacle. They didn't just merge their lives, they blended families. Brandon already had 2 children from his previous marriage, and Kelly embraced them wholeheartedly, speaking often about the joy of becoming a stepmother. Their family grew quickly. Their daughter, River Rose, arrived in 2014, followed by their son, Remington Alexander, in 2016. Kelly spoke openly about how motherhood intensified her sense of purpose and deepened her bond with Brandon. On stage and in interviews, she radiated warmth whenever she mentioned him. To fans and observers, they appeared solid, affectionate, and deeply connected. Their public appearances were filled with easy laughter, comfortable body language, and a unified front that suggested genuine partnership. In 2017, Kelly offered a rare level of vulnerability when discussing her relationship with Brandon. "I never felt like, honestly, sexually attracted to anybody before him," she said. "I honestly thought I was asexual. I'd never been turned on like that in my whole life." It was an unusually raw confession from a major pop star, underscoring just how profoundly she believed Brandon had changed her understanding of intimacy and connection. For years, Kelly presented him as the first person who truly matched her emotionally, personally, and physically. To the outside world, their marriage looked not just functional, but extraordinary. A union built on passion, compatibility, and shared life goals. Whether on red carpets, on tour, or in behind-the-scenes moments she chose to share, Kelly and Brandon seemed to be a couple who had found something rare, a relationship that enhanced both love and career. But behind the scenes, the reality of Kelly Clarkson's marriage was far more complex than the polished image the public saw. As the years went by, Kelly began to sense a widening emotional gap between herself and Brandon. What had once felt like an unshakable connection slowly shifted into something more fragile and isolating. Despite her fame, her career success, and her devotion to their children, Kelly found herself experiencing an unsettling sense of loneliness, one that she later described as creeping in quietly, becoming more pronounced with time. Kelly revealed that during long stretches of the marriage, she felt as though she were moving through life alone. Even simple, everyday responsibilities began to fall heavily on her shoulders. With a demanding career that required constant creativity, performance, and public presence, she carried the dual weight of motherhood and professional obligations. She had expected partnership, balance, and support. Instead, she increasingly felt as if she were functioning as a single parent inside a marriage. The emotional labor became exhausting, especially as she tried to maintain the image of a unified home. This loneliness didn't surface all at once. It built gradually, through missed moments, unspoken frustrations, and the grinding reality of feeling unseen. Kelly later explained that she kept trying to make the marriage work, holding on to hope that the growing distance could be repaired. She invested time, patience, and emotional effort, believing that their shared history and the family they'd built together were worth fighting for. But with each passing year, the gap only grew wider. The strain became something she could no longer dismiss or push aside. By 2020, the pressure had reached a breaking point. The COVID-19 pandemic intensified everything. More time at home, more reflection, more confrontation with truths that had long been avoided. Kelly was forced to examine what her life had become and what she wanted it to look like moving forward. After almost 7 years of trying to hold the marriage together, she made the profoundly difficult decision to file for divorce in June 2020, citing irreconcilable differences. It wasn't a snap judgment or a moment of impulsivity. It was the culmination of years of emotional struggle and quiet sadness. Kelly described the experience of ending her marriage as something that tore her apart emotionally. Despite the public perception of strength and resilience, she admitted that the process shook her on a deeply personal level. She mourned not just the end of a relationship, but the loss of the future she had imagined, a stable partnership, a balanced home, and the kind of support she had once believed she'd finally found. The divorce process that followed was anything but straightforward. What began with a simple filing in June 2020 quickly escalated into a long, complicated legal battle marked by disputes over finances, property, and the future of their children. For Kelly Clarkson, who was already navigating the emotional weight of ending a nearly 7-year marriage, the legal complexities added another layer of strain. Each issue, spousal support, child custody, and the division of assets, became a point of contention, stretching the proceedings far beyond what either party had likely anticipated. One of the most significant and publicized conflicts centered around the couple's expansive Montana ranch. The property was not only financially valuable, but symbolically tied to their family life and lifestyle. Brandon argued he had a right to part of the estate, insisting his contributions entitled him to a share. However, the court examined the financial history, the deeds, and how the ranch had been acquired. Ultimately, a judge ruled that the property belonged entirely to Kelly, since all legal documentation showed it was purchased and maintained with her separate funds. Despite the ruling, Brandon remained on the ranch for an extended period, complicating matters further. It was not until the court ordered him to vacate by June 2022 that the issue finally reached closure. Custody arrangements also proved emotionally taxing. With 2 young children, River Rose and Remington Alexander, both parents wanted significant involvement in their lives. After reviewing the family's circumstances, the judge granted Kelly primary physical custody in November 2020. This decision acknowledged her stability, her consistent role in the children's upbringing, and the demands of Brandon's lifestyle. While the ruling provided structure, it could not soften the emotional impact of restructuring their family dynamics. Financial negotiations added yet another layer of difficulty. Reports indicated that the final settlement required Kelly to make a one-time payment of roughly $1.3 million to Brandon. In addition, she was ordered to pay monthly spousal support of approximately $115,000 through January 31, 2024, and child support of $45,601 per month. These figures reflected both their income disparity and the court's effort to maintain stability for the children. Although the numbers attracted media attention, for Kelly, they were simply another required step in closing one of the most painful chapters of her life. Amid the legal battles, Kelly also made a deeply personal decision. In February 2022, she legally changed her name to Kelly Brianne. Although she clarified that she would continue to use Kelly Clarkson for professional purposes, the name change carried emotional significance. It was tied to her complicated relationship with her late father and symbolized her desire to reclaim her identity at a moment when her life was being redefined. The change became a symbolic act of healing, a way of marking a transition from years of unhappiness and conflict toward a future she hoped would feel more authentic. In 2023, Kelly Clarkson made a defining choice. She packed up her life, gathered her children, and moved to New York City, a relocation that marked one of the most significant turning points of her post-divorce journey. The decision was tied to production of the 5th season of The Kelly Clarkson Show, which shifted from Los Angeles to NBC's facilities at 30 Rockefeller Plaza. But for Kelly, the move was far more symbolic than a simple change of studio. It represented a clean slate, a conscious reset, and an intentional step toward reclaiming happiness on her own terms after years of emotional turbulence. The fast, vibrant pace of New York offered Kelly something she desperately needed: a fresh emotional environment, free from old associations. She described the relocation as a chance to rebuild her life with clarity, surrounded by new energy and new routines. The city pushed her into a rhythm that felt revitalizing. Walking the streets with her children, exploring museums, parks, and neighborhoods, she found joy in the everyday moments that had once been overshadowed by stress and legal battles. This chapter of her life also marked the beginning of Kelly fully embracing her identity as a single mother. Instead of viewing it as a burden, she leaned into it with pride and purpose. She created a stable, nurturing environment for River and Remington, focusing on emotional openness, structure, and a sense of adventure. New York became more than a workplace. It became a home base for healing and growth. Professionally, Kelly flourished. The move infused The Kelly Clarkson Show with a fresh tone and energy, and her authenticity resonated stronger than ever. Audiences connected deeply to the version of Kelly they saw on screen: candid, funny, resilient, and unafraid to discuss the personal challenges she had overcome. Her ability to blend humor with raw honesty made the show thrive in its new setting. Fans didn't just watch for celebrity interviews, they watched for Kelly herself, her musical performances, and the grounded, human warmth she brought into every episode. When it came to her personal life, Kelly struck a careful balance. She remained open to the idea of future relationships, but she refused to let pressure or expectation dictate her next steps. In several interviews, she shared that her children often voiced a preference for her to stay single. They enjoyed having her to themselves, appreciated the peace in their household, and felt secure in the routine they had built together. Kelly took their feelings seriously. Rather than rushing into dating to fill a void, she chose patience, prioritizing stability over romance. Instead of searching for a new partner, she focused on strengthening her connection with River and Remington. Kelly prioritized emotional transparency in her home, encouraging conversations about feelings, fears, and hopes. She wanted her children to understand that life could continue beautifully after hardship, and that love within a family did not depend on a traditional marital structure. On August 6, 2025, Kelly Clarkson shared news that stunned the public. In a brief but deeply heartfelt statement, she revealed that the father of her children had been ill, writing, "This past year, my children's father has been ill, and at this moment, I need to be fully present for them." The message was somber, measured, and carried a weight that longtime fans immediately recognized. Kelly, who had spent years balancing candor with privacy, chose her words carefully, signaling both a personal crisis and a mother's urgent need to protect her children. Just one day later, Brandon Blackstock's family issued their own announcement. They confirmed that he had bravely battled cancer for more than 3 years and had passed away peacefully, surrounded by loved ones. The revelation landed with force. Few outside the family had even suspected he was ill, let alone fighting a prolonged, life-threatening disease. The news was a shock not because of the relationship Kelly and Brandon once shared, but because of how tightly the entire situation had been held in confidence. What became immediately clear was that this illness had been kept extraordinarily private, remarkably so, considering the public visibility of everyone involved. In the era of constant online speculation, paparazzi intrusion, and relentless tabloid narratives, maintaining that level of confidentiality for more than 3 years was nearly unheard of. Yet Kelly and Brandon's families managed it. No public hints, no leaks, no quiet industry chatter that typically surfaces long before an official statement. The silence was intentional, protective, and telling. The privacy surrounding Brandon's illness illuminated several key truths about Kelly's character and priorities. For one, it underscored her fierce commitment to shielding River and Remington from unnecessary distress. While the custody transition, divorce litigation, and media scrutiny surrounding the split had already placed enormous pressure on the children, this situation demanded even greater sensitivity. Kelly understood the emotional gravity of a parent's illness and chose to create a controlled environment in which the children could process the reality without public interference. It also highlighted the respect she maintained for the father of her children, despite the turbulence of their post-marriage relationship. The years following the divorce had involved difficult negotiations, financial disputes, and heavy emotional processing. But none of that diminished the fundamental truth that Brandon was still their dad, still deeply loved by the children, and still an integral part of their story. Kelly's decision to remain silent during his illness reflected maturity, compassion, and a clear prioritization of family dignity over public transparency. Only when the situation reached its final, heartbreaking chapter did Kelly speak publicly. And even then, she limited her words to what mattered most: the well-being of her children. Her statement was not about the past, the divorce, or public sympathy. It was about her role as a mother stepping into a moment of profound grief and responsibility. In the aftermath of the announcement and Brandon's passing, the public response was immediate and empathetic. Fans, colleagues, and industry figures recognized the magnitude of what Kelly had been quietly carrying. Her strength in navigating private heartbreak while maintaining her career, relocating her family, and fostering emotional stability for her children became even more evident. The revelation of Brandon's 3-year battle with cancer ultimately reframed the narrative of their post-divorce years. It revealed the unseen struggles, the careful boundaries, and the deep emotional labor happening behind closed doors. Above all, it emphasized how deeply Kelly valued her children's emotional safety, guarding them from public exposure even in moments of profound personal crisis. What do you think about Kelly Clarkson and Brandon Blackstock? Leave us your comments in the section below. We hope you have found this helpful video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you for watching this, and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.